really excited about getting this season underway. I think our guys have had a great offseason as far as preparing themselves for this first game here. The one thing I want our guys to improve on is improving their bodies and their strength and conditioning to give themselves a chance to play physical and play tough. And I think to our guys' credit, they've really done that. Gavin Ware, I've talked about this before, is down to 262 pounds from playing at 275 pounds last year. Fred Thomas has done a really good job with his strength and conditioning. He played last season about 185 pounds, and right now he's 207 pounds. And I think Chicken put on about 10 pounds of muscle as well. Trevante Blood has put on 11 pounds. Colin Broken has lost weight. He's a lot slimmer, a lot trim, reduced his body fat. So hopefully these guys' gains in the offseason and strength and conditioning will pay off for them on the court. As far as basketball, we've asked some guys to do things individually and as a team. We've really concentrated on Chicken and reducing his turnovers. I know he's not going to play point guard for us this year, but he also has to make sure he reduces his turnovers and give himself a chance to be a good player and for us to be a good team. I think with Fred Thomas now, with his added strength, hopefully that'll transition to him making better decisions as far as like shooting the basketball. I thought a lot of times when he came off of cuts, because he was so physically weak, he got rolled off of cuts and wasn't on balance for his shot, so I think that will help him. But I think overall we got to have an emphasis as a team, making sure that we reduce our turnovers. We can't be that bad in taking care of the basketball and expect to have any success in the basketball court. And I think also rebounding the basketball to give ourselves a chance. I think I told our team we play defense too hard and too tough to give up at the end a defensive rebound by not going to get the basketball. So hopefully our guys will put all that into fruition. So questions?
You said the other night that you wanted to see more out of Fred and Gavin. You also mentioned that Fred was really the most improved guy as far as getting in the weight room. What did you see from him going against guys that weren't guys in practice? And you finally got to see him go up against another team. What did you see from him the other night?
Well, I think he's got to be a consistent scorer for us. I think Fred has a talent to go out and be a guy who can get, 15 points a night. But what we can't have is Fred Thomas get 24 points one night and then 9 points the next night and then 10 points and then 18 points. I want him to be a consistent scorer because we need a consistent perimeter threat. And I think Fred will be a good shooter. Now, the percentages don't say that if you look at his percentages from last year, but I think if anybody looks at the stroke, he has a chance to be a good shooter. So we just need consistent performance as far as him being an offensive threat for us.
Coach, just talk about how different it is looking back on last year's season opener going into this year's season opener with your team, and personally for you as well.
Well, I think the one thing that's always still a concern for us at this point in time is our depth. Our front line is very thin. We only have 3 guys who really play that position, and if forced into that role, Andre Applewhite is going to be our third forward, but we don't want that to happen. But I'm really concerned with the way the officiating has changed and the emphasis that we don't put our guys in harm's way at that position, in the front court position. So that's one thing. The depth is still a concern as compared to last year. But I think the one thing that's different, obviously, is we know what we are now. I think last year I didn't know what my team's strengths and weaknesses was. I didn't know what our guys' individual strengths and weaknesses were. So I think going into this season, as far as our first game, we actually know our personnel, and I know what to expect out of guys to a certain extent.
How do you kind of combat the new rules? And you want your guys to be aggressive, but you don't want them to be in foul trouble because of that lack of depth right there. What do you do to kind of teach your guys to, hey, stay aggressive, but don't get in foul trouble?
Well, what we've done is we've had a lot of games in practice. We've brought in officials to officiate our practice quite a bit. And one thing is they always look at the coaching staff when they call a call because we're actually not officials, but we wanted to bring in guys who actually were officials, and we had them officiate our practices quite a bit. And I think it really helped us because now our guys know what to expect going into the game competition. Then also it helps us as a coaching staff because the last thing you want to do is coach and teach your guys how to foul. And so some of the things that we have taught in the past and coached, as far as like my background being in the Midwest and physical basketball, Big Ten basketball, that we just simply can't do some of those things anymore because what we're doing is we're teaching and coaching our guys how to foul. So it doesn't make sense as a coach if we continue to put our guys in harm's way when we know depth is a concern.
Coach, the first couple of, I guess, scrimmages or practices or whatever, lots been made of I.J. Reddy and his responsibilities and stuff. It's always difficult for a freshman point guard to kind of, play that way to the entire season. What are your expectations considering that he is a freshman and he has to lead the team?
Well, I think the one thing that I always want to emphasize to our guys is not the whole freshman mentality and sophomores and juniors. What I want to put across is like you're a scholarship basketball player. And so if you're a scholarship basketball player and you're thrust into a situation where you're going to play these minutes that you have to be able to handle. I think the one thing that's kind of true about IJ is the fact that he's prepared himself to have success on the basketball court by the way he conducts himself in the practices, in the weight room, in the conditioning. He has always been really professional about how he handles his business and how he handles himself. So if he continues to do those things off the court, then he will have success on the court because of that reason.
When you look at rebounding, you said it's a huge key this season. How do you plan on improving upon that with kind of the same players coming back?
I think the one thing that we have to do is, and I'm bad at this, is I stopped practice too much to correct things last year. And so we didn't play through the possession. And that's one thing that I really focused on in practice this season, is letting our guys play through the possession no matter how many mistakes I saw or me getting irritated because a guy didn't jump to the basketball defensively. What I had to do was I had to train myself to let that possession play out. And so once that possession played out, then I could pull that young man aside and talk to him about what he did wrong. But we didn't get the end result. The end result was ending the possession with a defensive rebound. That's a stop. I think we sometimes did a great job of causing misses, but not going to go get the rebound. That's one thing that we've kind of focused on in practice is playing the possession throughout. And it's something I think that's going to really help our guys. Now, it has to translate to success on the court. But at the end of the day, our guys have to figure out a way to get a defensive rebound. A guy like Colin Morgan, he's going to be going up against guys who are more athletic, bigger, and stronger than him. And sometimes the best thing that he can do is make sure that his man doesn't get the rebound. Not the fact that he goes and gets the rebound, but make sure your guy does not get the rebound.
We've talked a lot about Thomas's offensive game and how you're working on that defensively. He's athletic. He's got the size and strength to create a lot of plays. He takes a lot of gambles. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. I mean, how do you keep that aggressiveness and yet keep him under control if that's possible?
I think with both Fred Thomas and Chicken, they fall into the category we want those guys to be more solid and compact. We say you guys are such good defensive players if you just rely on your principles. I think sometimes they just want to take the ball because those guys want to go out and get out in transition and have success in the offensive end. But we say oftentimes if you just do what you're supposed to do, the opposing team will make a mistake and give you the ball. And I think what those guys do sometimes is they try to take the other person's ball. And they're playing against some very talented guys, and that's just not going to happen. And they had success doing that in high school level because they were always more athletic and bigger and stronger and longer. And that just doesn't translate over to the college basketball game at times. So we want those guys to understand just be solid and compact. That's all we talked about is no, don't gamble. Don't put our defense in a bad situation because you gambled. So there's times because of the way we're playing that we want our guys to be aggressive on the defensive end, both man-to-man, and sometimes we play that 1-3-1 zone. But we don't want to put ourselves in harm's way by you gambling. Be solid and